On today's episode of the show, I am joined by Essex Ravens offensive coordinator Joe Demore. You can check out Joe's last episode. You're actually the first recurring guest, Coach. So you can hold that trivia.
That makes me feel good about it. Thanks for having me again.
Hey, no problem. That piece of trivia is all yours for now. There's a couple other guys that want to come back on, but you're the first guy to be a recurring guest. So
well, that's good to know.
We did an awesome episode with Coach on some passing game reads that he ran last summer in the OPFL, and that he had some experience with when he was the head coach at Windsor as well. So you can check that out. Today we're talking quarterback run game, and I was kind of joking with you before. I had a few defensive coaches who have kind of thanked me for not doing anything on the quarterback run game because I don't think it's anything that defense coordinators like to have to defend. I know certainly something for us last summer you guys gave my team a little bit of trouble with, and I had to let them down easy today saying, hey, the gravy train's over. We're talking quarterback run game. So without wasting too much more time, we'll let you get right into that, and really excited to have you, Coach.
No, again, thanks for having me. Really for us, when you look at the quarterback run game, really there's a couple of reasons you do it. Obviously, first and foremost, you have to have an athletic quarterback. If you have someone that can really, be able to handle the run game, taking the hits and things like that, that could really be a big advantage as an offensive unit. Another reason is really a numbers game. Obviously, when you add the quarterback into the run game, most of the time, if you're in a one-back set, you're going to get a six-man box. If you add the quarterback, you're basically, really in a two-back set with a six-man box. So you are, a +1 on the defense and things like that. So that's really a huge advantage for us. And one of the third reasons is really to kind of take advantage of, overplaying defenses that, overplay in certain formations, and I'll show you some clips that, we use it out of 41. We use it out of double tight. Just formations where, you're probably going to get, again, a checked defense, a defense that they're kind of set into cover. And when you add that quarterback in it, it's something that they really don't account for as a defensive unit. They really don't, when they're looking at defending the whole formation, the quarterback really doesn't come into play there. So when you add them into the run game, it really makes a big difference for the offense in taking advantage of defensive systems.
Sure.
So I'll kind of go right in here and got a couple clips for you here. So the first play we got here is pretty standard play. It's a cowboy. Our cowboy is counter trey. The way we run our run system is everything is pretty much, we use kind of NFL teams, and then the cities of those NFL teams is kind of our play action off those plays. So cowboy is our counter trey. So, formationally we're in quads here. So we're quads QB cowboy weak. We run everything weak and strong in our run game. I had a hard time for a long time, going left or right and things like that, and really just add so many plays on a quarterback's wristband. If you're on the left hash, you have the right and left play. If you're on the right hash, you have a left and right play. This really kind of just eliminates some plays on the wristband and really allows us to run weak and strong, whatever hash we're on. If we want to go to the boundary, we run weak. If we want to go to the field, we run strong. So it really kind of eliminates kind of those things. But if you look at this play here, we have a simple, zone action. Running back will walk up, prior to the snap, and the quarterback will give him a zone action away from where he's running. We'll pull the tackle, and right here we got the center pulling it. It's all based on defensive front. So, it's normally the guard tackle pull and counter trey, but if we get a 3 technique to the field, we want to pull the uncovered lineman. It's just easier in asking the center to kind of go down and make a block on a 3 tech. We just let the guard block down on him. We pull the tackle, and then what we do is call, a lot of people use cat and different things like that. We use a cat call, and the center will be the one to kick. The backside tackle will go up to the Mike linebacker, and the tackle comes around the horn. And really we look at it, if the end was really tight, most of the situations in this kind of formation, the end's going to play outside the tackle. So we'll get, we'll kick, and then we'll get up into the hole. If we did have a situation where the end would spike inside, we really don't allow things, people to cross each other's face. If the tackle has to block him, he will. And really the center will end up having the center and the tackle both going around the horn. But that's very rare in a lot of these kind of formations and stuff like that. So this is kind of how it looks like on paper here. And we got a couple clips for you. So go through here. Sorry, quick here. So if we pause here, so we're in a quads formation here, and unfortunately don't have a lot of end zone film here in the summer football. We only do one sideline film, so kind of work through here. But standard formation, we basically got a 40. It looks like, maybe an over. He looks like he's over the center here. Might be in a one technique. Could have a standard 40 front here, and two linebackers, 6-man box. So right now, when we have the quarterback, we're a +1 here in the box. Basically, we're in a 2-back set with the quarterback. So we get late movement by the running back here, and really it's just a little action to kind of pull their eyes. Here, I believe we pull the center pulls because we do have a 3-tech to the field. Comes around the horn. We get a kick by the center. Tackle gets through the hole. Gets up on the next guy, and we're off and running here. We had a really physical quarterback. Obviously, look, you see him here carrying a lot of guys.
Yeah, that certainly helps. That's something I remember from our games. He's a solid runner, but I think that it's so tough, and I think a lot of people are, looking for ways to run your traditional 2-gap runs, but there's a lot of spread or 2-back runs. Sorry, but there's a lot of spread football being played in Canada for some of the reasons we talked about. In your first video on the passing game, but you put your guys in a great position here. If your quarterback can be a ball carrier, now all of a sudden we see here the team you're playing against actually ends up in a 5-man box, which is, might be, but even if that team is trying to defend the run and be gap sound, all of a sudden you're left with no one for the quarterback there. And, it's a pretty downhill clean look for him, especially at a 41 with no one left in the boundary.
Yeah, 100%. And even, we get a nice, easy kick. You even look at, our tackle. He's going down to get the Mike linebacker who left for whatever reason. Maybe saw that little bubble action, which is not something we design. It's, I think, our players just kind of messing around sometimes. They run a little bubble action and for whatever reason pulls the Mike out. So in theory here, we're 2-man advantage now, and our tackle really has no one to block. Kind of comes out and kind of goes exactly where he needs to be, and he's kind of waiting there for someone to show up. But, you see our tackle get all the way around the horn, and if you look at this right now, there's only one man, that could really make a play, and our tackle does enough to get a hand, a body on him, and he tries to cut our lead blocker, which some defenders try to do, but, it was enough to block him. And, yeah, our quarterback he's not explosive, but physical and, runs well enough to obviously take advantage of some of the plays here. And then obviously, he's just real physical here.
And ultimately, I think there's a ton of high school programs and summer ball programs that are playing their best athlete at the quarterback spot. I don't think you're really using that guy to his best ability if you're not finding a couple ways that, you can really scheme that guy into the run game.
Oh, for sure. And here, and I think especially at the high school level when, like you mentioned, most people are playing their quarterbacks, their best players at the quarterback position. It's really an opportunity to just, spread the defense out and really just take advantage of good athletes, things like that. So here's another play. We actually have a different quarterback in here. This is our third-string guy last year, but really athletic. He was the starting quarterback the year before, but, veteran guy, really smart kid, and athletic. So we usually when he came in, it was usually doing some run kind of stuff with him and things like that. So, exact same formation, exact same. The look we get now defensively is we get a pressure. So we get a pressure here by the defense. They bring up everyone. So now really there's only, again, like you said, even though there's, guys on the line, they really kind of just outrun themselves, and we're able to clean that hole right there. I believe our tackle does a great job of just filling right away right there. Like the guy filling the hole on the blitz, he takes him, hits him, and our quarterback does a good job of seeing that and, makes the open man miss in open field. There's one guy there, kind of makes a miss. And then we get down there, and, it's a good 20-yard run.
It makes it tough, especially traditionally. I think a lot of times people are trying to answer, if you're getting run on, they're trying to blitz you. And obviously if you're pulling guys that can cause problems, but it also makes it tough on defenses. You're moving 2 gaps back towards the boundary. If you're blitzing guys, it makes it tough to account for that as those gaps move, right?
Yeah, especially if you're blitzing away from where you're running. If you're attacking, wide right, and then you run a counter to the left, that really just takes you. The numbers game just goes straight up for the offense here. So here's another one. So this is actually again our third string guy. We're in the same formation, so we ran it pretty much out of this exclusively.
The other thing I think that's so good about it is if you have an athletic quarterback, a lot of teams are telling the defensive end to sit and make sure he hands the ball off on the zone read. So that makes him an easy guy to kick
Yes.
for that counter player. And really, he's seeing and just knowing experience because we played you guys twice last year. You're running a ton of zone read out of this formation as well. So now that guy, thinks he's doing his job. If anything, he's erring on the side of, staying wide and making sure that ball is given. He's, so susceptible to that kick out. And the linebackers, as much as we tell them, hey, you got to see the pullers, especially at the high school level, they do have to see the pullers, but you're not getting a straight read in terms of the back looks like he's running inside zone back towards the field. That can make it tough on those guys. And anytime you can force them to be more disciplined than, most high school athletes are prepared to be, at that level in their development, that's tough.
And we talked about it in our last session in regards to, offensively, we're trying to take advantage of defensive players overplaying things and not really having, the time to practice that. And it's the same situation like you just mentioned. You'd love for them to read the offensive line, but majority of the time they're looking in the backfield and they're watching the running back and the quarterback and just given enough action here to show, zone away, it'll pull their eyes there. And really, if you look at the mic, his first steps are towards that way. And he's takes steps forward and he's kind of made, and he's only did a little bit, but it's just enough. It's just enough for him to kind of take himself out of the play. And then the tackle, by the time he realizes the tackle's around the horn and able to get on him. And then, our quarterback's off and running again and, gets a good, 20-yard gain again. So those are the kind of things that you're trying to take advantage of as an offensive coach, to be overplaying and things like that of defensive players.
Yeah, I think if anyone who's running zone read, this is a natural, especially if you're already running counter. Like if you're already running counter for your guys up front, if that's something you're investing in, this is so simple and pairs so well with what you're already doing.
For sure. So this is another play here. So we run this out of quads as well. This is called QB Dolphin week, and Dolphin is what we call a dart, which is just a center pull. So it's a center kick off the end. And as you can see here, formationally, what we did was, I'll show you a little bit later, we run out of jet, we run a quarterback Dolphin week. But then in the championship game, we decided to add the running back. So we, instead of running zone action, we actually use him as the lead blocker. And again, now we're adding into so we bomber the number 4 receiver to just come block the backside end. So he's basically replacing who the back would block if he did does zone away action. He would end up blocking the end. So we just kind of replaced him, and now we're coming on here and same kind of responsibilities for all the O linemen. The center will kick. The guard's down on the nose. The tackle's up on the mic. Instead of the tackle pulling around to get the will, now we just use the running back to get the will. And it's kind of like an ISO, QB ISO. We used it in the championship game. And, in the second half, we're struggling a little bit. We're only up 7-0 in the championship. And we ran this play really early in the second half, and it really kind of helped us kind of spark a little bit of a run and stuff like that. So this is kind of us here. So we're in quads, and the challenge here when we ran this play in practice was really the timing of the running back, because the guard center was pulling. He really had to be patient and kind of wait for the center to kick before he could lead through. If he come flying downhill, they're going to end up running into each other. So our running backs do a pretty good job of being patient. Our running back, pretty veteran guy, he pauses and then he kind of takes off leading and does a great job. Like, you couldn't ask anything more. We get a blitz by the will, so he pretty much takes himself out of the play. The tackle does a great job of just stepping down and picking him up, playing the B gap, which is he would normally go get the mic across the field, but because the will steps in, he just takes that guy, and then they just change responsibilities, the running back and him. We get a natural. Our center comes out, does a great job of kicking, and we only got one back left, and the running back comes through and gets hat on a hat, and boom, right there. So, initial contact, we're at the 55. Initial contact, last contact guy's at the 55 yards away, and the quarterback hasn't even been touched yet. And he's off in the races. He slips a little bit here. Probably would have got a little more, but, we're still on to a 15-yard gain there. And I think it really helped us as long as we added this quarterback run, which was kind of the first time we ran in the championship game. Ottawa was kind of like, oh, they're QB running now. And then it kind of opened up the rest of our run game down the road inside zone.
It really, I think it forces, again, defensive coordinators like you said at the start, your base defensive structure is, okay, if they're in a spread set, we got 6 guys for 6 gaps, where gap sounds. This is how everybody fits in. And now you're adding the quarterback. You're changing where the gaps are presented. It's tough defensively in terms of, hey, if you're fitting in on this shoulder and, you're trying to be outside arm free, well, does that stay the same? If now they're leading the backup there, there's no plug for the gap there, right? There's no one that's systematically, already locked into stepping up and being the player and the fit you'd like to have. And I think the thing it always stresses for the guys that I've coached is, it makes them almost hesitate on other plays as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of why you do it, right? You run that because you're not going to run the quarterback. Before we start filming here, you mentioned about the SEC and how they're running, QBs 20, 25 times a game. We're not doing that here in Canada, and we're not doing that at any level because your quarterback more likely is going to get banged up, and we don't have the luxury of having 3-4, talented quarterbacks on every roster. So you're really trying to protect this guy. So even if he is an athlete, and again, our quarterback was pretty, physical, he could handle the hitting and stuff, but he, I still had to tell him to dial it down a little bit with his putting his shoulder down and stuff like that, because they get hurt, that could really jeopardize your season. But you really just do it to make them think about it, and then, like you said, kind of worry so much about that they kind of lag a little bit on other plays, and then you take advantage on the inside zone where you're going to run that 20 times a game. So that's kind of where, how we look at it offensively.
It's tough. Like I said, I had a lot of defensive coaches who were, quite happy that we were 30-some episodes in and had not talked quarterback run game.
Well, they could be upset now because we are.
Absolutely.
So here we get the, again, at this level, there's challenges. I say our receiver, he's pretty deep in his bomber. We don't really get a rush by the end, so he kind of just stands there. Obviously, you would like to be a little closer to the quarterback. This is pretty much a quick fold block here. We get the guard come down on the nose. The tackle's going out, gets the mic like we asked him to do, and the will does a good job filling. That running back takes him on, which is kind of what you want, right? And that's typical old school ISO football right there. Fullback coming through, taking on the linebacker, and then the quarterback, the running back coming reading off that block. Our quarterback does a good job of reading it. Again, no contact inside at all. Gets up there and then, does a good job running the football, and being physical and tackles. And again, we're at the 40 here, and, it's a 1st and 10. But, we get a 15, 16-yard gain, and now we're, near the red zone here. So you find too that quarterback runs oftentimes are really great sparks for the team.
For sure.
The team loves seeing, and really our quarterback last year was just a great spark for us. They shared him and another quarterback, but when he came in, these kind of plays really kind of energized the team and excited the guys on the team. They love playing for him and really, was a big factor. And when you get a quarterback running, guys want to block for him. They want to be physical and they want to block for him and things like that.
And it obviously, some of it depends on, what types of kids you have where, but that play you just ran there, very similar to something that we were running where we just had the back empty out, and that's how we got the will out of there. So we had we had some options, but we had, one guy we were trying to get on the field as kind of a scat back, and, we would go to empty. and still run the quarterback power, like the fold you're talking about there.
Yes.
And, ultimately there's more than one way to do it, right? And I think for high school coaches, and my dad was a long-time high school defensive coordinator, and we played in a league where the majority of quarterbacks were athletic, but at least when I was there, the scheme hadn't caught up. I remember watching some Tim Tebow stuff, and my dad just looking, going, "Hey, if anyone starts doing this, like, we got a problem."
For sure.
And actually Jake Reinhardt was the big quarterback in the league at the time, Toronto
Yes.
Argo's long snapper. And I remember specifically, I think his senior year matched up with kind of the Tim Tebow Heisman season. And I remember watching some film, and, they were running a little bit of this kind of QB lead stuff. But like you said, it's usually, if you're looking at your backfield, your running back's going to be one of your best athletes. If you use him as a lead blocker or a fake, that's, you should be able to do one of those two things, even if he can't lead block. If he's a great speed guy like you had before, he's countering the one way. And then, if your quarterback's a good athlete and usually one of your leaders, it has that element of, almost motivating the team as well, because now you got that quarterback, your team leader as a focal point in the run game. And, I think there's benefits beyond just the yards gain there for sure.
Oh, for sure. And early in my university career, I lived off of, Austin Kennedy and his running ability. And, early on in his career, he kind of just did it, improvising. But as his career went on, we kind of designed things more for him to run. And he was a physical kid and was stout and could handle the beating. And a lot of our success came from him, making plays in the run game, because defenses just can't account for it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this one here, our last one, kind of is the QB Dolphin week again, but this time we run it out of our King formation, which is our double tight, 2 to the weak, 1 to the field. And we ran this a lot during the season, and we did some plays where we threw to the Z to the field there and some ISO routes. And then early in the year, we really showed this in our jet action. The Y is our top player, Vashon, and we ran a ton of jet sweeps with him in that formation. So it really kind of set it up during the course of the year with the film, and kind of showed, like, hey, we're going to run jet when we're in this formation, and we're going to give that action. And the back's usually out early running and blocking for the Y. So it really kind of, all eyes see that back leave, jet action. Everyone's thinking, jet sweep. And all you need is that Will and that Mike and that Sam to kind of take 2 steps to the field and really kind of feel like we're going, to the field there. And then all of a sudden all these guys get up on them and just wall them off when we're coming back around the horn here. So, I pre-warn you, I do have some Cambridge film here.
Yeah, it's all right.
For you.
That's all right. You spared me on the vertical passing game, so we will do.
But this is, something that we did run in the playoff game against you. So this was not something we ran during the regular season. It was new to the playoffs. So really we have this action here. Vashon coming across, backs leaving early. And right now you guys got, a guy walked up here. So you got a 50 front pretty much. Actually, you might have 6 guys down there. I think there's a guy down there too. I can't really see, obviously. Oh, he might be coming off the ground there. But so you see the motion and him pointing, seeing that action, you get that little bit of a rotation there. And then we pull the center, and basically all eyes, if you look at just the defense, all eyes are that way. You get the backer scraping on the jet sweep, you get everyone going that way. And you get a hard rotation by 20 in the free safety, so he's running with his back to it, turning. And our center, so our tight end, so if we go back to the actual drawing, basically our tight end, depends on how the DN lines up. If the DN lines up inside the tight end, we're calling wide. We're getting a wide call. And basically we're down blocking that end, and the center's going around the horn. If the end ends up being on a wide 9 and outside the defensive end, then we got a tight call, and the tight end will basically kick them, and the center will go up the horn and play the will linebacker. So that's kind of how we read it. Majority of the time we get the defensive end inside the tight end in the league. That's usually what we get. So it's actually a much easier block for our tight end. He just kind of has to wall him off, and our center comes around the horn and, get that action. And yeah, we come up free here. So we get we got basically a jailbreak here, and our center kind of, I don't think he's more athletic than he is, kind of stops running for a second, but our quarterback gets up in there and we take advantage of it. Or, we talk about receivers blocking and stuff, and our receiver does an outstanding job of getting square up on a guy and really just being physical and is able to, kind of give us another 15 yards with that play there. So.
Yeah, it's tough when you start to be able to, work some of these same concepts out of, different formations, right? You can it keeps things simple for your guys up front because it's something that they run out of something else. But, and obviously anytime you have really, really good athletes, it gives you some opportunities to set some things up. But, when you're a team that can get the quarterback involved in the run game, it just creates so many more challenges defensively. And, certainly I think having to defend those similar concepts out of different formations really adds to that challenge.
This is so same formation here. And so it's just during the same game. So later on in the game, we run the same action. And again, in the secondary 20, we get the point and the free safety comes down and, linebackers are a little more disciplined this time because obviously we ran it once before. But for us, this is now – so we ran that play, and if we do run jet here, you don't get that strong movement by the linebackers now because they're so concerned about the QB. And if we do hand this off, now, we're getting on a track a lot faster, and we don't have to worry so much about defensive guys just full out sprinting to that position when the ball snapped. Now they have to be concerned, and we talked about that just a few plays ago where you actually do that quarterback run to set up your jet sweeps for later on in the game so that they're not pursuing them with so much. And so here we get some penetration, but our center, does enough here. So right now we got our tight end kind of, makes a mistake here. So the defensive end is actually outside the tight end. So in theory, he should be kicking this guy. But you kind of have a wide front here where, the defensive end is outside almost the tackle and we have a guy outside the tight end. So they decide to go down and then we just kick the wide guy and the center gets just enough of him to kind of let our quarterback get through there. And our quarterback, again, was physical enough. He broke a hand tackle there, kind of get a hand on him, miss him. And then he breaks away there.
Yeah, the aspect of the double tight end, like now you got people thinking, okay, this is how we're going to have to fit it in spread. This is how we're going to have to fit it if, they get out of a heavier personnel. And obviously I think for a lot of people watching, you're not necessarily in high school going to be running, 5 or 6 different formations. But, even if you can find a way, hey, in each one of our kind of formational plays, whatever our perimeter run is, or even the inside zone, which is really what, your spread counter is working off of.
Yeah, for sure.
If you can find a way to involve the quarterback, going the other way, that counters off whatever it is you're running, whether you're running outside zone, whether you're running inside zone, whether you're running ISO, if you can find another way to add that in, like you said, it's just so tough on the guys on defense to be sound and to be where they need to be to leverage the play. Like that's the thing that, I always have a hard time with quarterback run is I can maybe get enough guys there, but I can't get them there with the leverage that I want because they've been influenced by whether it's the jet sweep or the zone or, the bubble screen on the other side, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, and I love it. I love it with the jet sweep just because the jet sweep's such a fast-hitting play coming across that you really have to be so reactive as a defensive player to defend the jet sweep. You can't just sit there and stare at it because, and you look at the U Sports level, Queens made, history of like running the jet sweep without even blocking the front side defensive end. Mm-hmm. And, you think about that in theory. You're like, how are you not blocking like the frontline guy at point of attack? It's because they hit that thing so fast that he doesn't even have time to react to it. By the time he even notices that the tackle steps down, the jet sweep's already by him. And so really, for us, using the jet sweep to counter the run action, if you do it during the year and you do it successfully and you have a really explosive guy playing, what would be our wide position, it's challenging for you, the defensive guys. You see that guy motion across in jet and you've seen on film that they run jet sweep. that's the first thing that comes to their mind. And what the Will, Mike, and Sam want to do is just chase it. They just want to go hard. And then as an offensive coach, all you need to do, like I said, is have them take 1 or 2 steps towards that play. And once they do that, it's basically just once they turn back to go play the quarterback, there's walls of guys there, offensive linemen just standing there waiting to block them. And that's really where you get the big runs out of those plays. And it's really just because you set it up earlier in the year, or you set it up during the course of the game with that strong jet action.
For sure. And I think, too, the other thing that I kind of like about it, and we actually ran into this at a couple points in my career with Cambridge, is when, if your starting quarterback isn't a really good athlete, or it's a guy that you don't want to get hurt, then maybe this isn't, some of your best stuff. But I can almost guarantee that every high school program and every summer ball program, your backup quarterback is usually an athlete, right?
Yes.
If you're in high school, you're taking a receiver and putting him there, or a running back, or, whatever it is. And so for us, what we've done sometimes with teams I've coached in the past is we would carry a little package, and we might even just play the backup quarterback. And it's a way to get him on the field and get him engaged. But even, we would run it with our starter just because our guys needed to know how to run it. And if we, got in a situation where, hey, that starting quarterback can't go anymore, now we don't have to run things that we're not used to running. You have that kind of quarterback run game built in. Instead of, you get to week 6, your quarterback gets hurt, and now you're installing that quarterback run game because you're moving your best receiver to quarterback. Yeah. And I think that gives you a lot of security as a coordinator, knowing, hey, we have some stuff that we've had in the bank that we can go to.
Yeah, and, it's obviously the Wildcat. You see it all the time. And really, most of the quarterback run game stuff is used in the Wildcat as well. Just the difference is really the threat to throw the football. When guys bring in Wildcats, and you see it in the college football game and all that kind of stuff. You don't see it too much in Canada, but when you do see it in the college football, they're not threatened to run the ball. To throw the football. They're really there to run. They might throw one time, and it's really kind of a design just to kind of get him to throw and play, do a trick play or something like that. But like when you're doing it with your starting quarterback, they can't just stand there and go, oh, it's a QB run. They don't really think about that. They're thinking about regular plays, passes, runs, and stuff like that. So it's really, you're really able to take huge advantage of it when those moments come about here. So this is just the final play. I don't have a drawing of it. It's a simple QB draw. Basically, we run it out of 41. We motion our back out, which we've done before, and we get into an empty 42 set. And really, this is just designed to spread the defense out. We put this in the playoffs, and again, just to get our quarterback running the football and kind of a different design and stuff like that. And you really can spread teams out. We get some movement here, and really we just get, normally we get some kind of full block center down on the one tech, but London played a 30 front, so it was a little more challenging. So we really just kind of blocked everyone up and kind of had the guards go up on the next level guys. But London did pressure a lot, so they end up bringing pretty much 5 out of the 6 there. We just hat on a hat, and we get a nice clean open. We kind of tell our O-lineman to, if you're going to lose to the outside, not to the inside, and kind of give up an outside rush to create that little pocket, and he's able to step through there. And our receiver coming down in motion, or Big Dante, does a great job of, I thought he was going to do a great job there, but didn't. Could have had an easy block for himself, but our quarterback, again, physical. It's a pretty physical run here by our quarterback. Jumps over our guy here and then trucks this guy right here, and then ends up in the end zone for a touchdown. So again, sparking the team. This was early on in the game, really kind of getting the team motivated, and it's hard to end it down here. You get a lot of man-to-man. This is actually, I think London's playing 2-man right here. Well, actually, no, they're playing zone. So playing a lot of zone, dropping into coverage here. But from the 10-yard line, most of the time you're going to get a man-man, and everyone's kind of got their backs to the quarterback. And if he's able to run QB draw, and you see this in the NFL a lot, their team spreading guys out and running their quarterback near the goal line.
Yeah, it's really challenging to defend. And again, it's all stuff like, I think most teams are carrying some form of counter, whether it's counter trey or like you were drawn up there where you're only maybe pulling one guy, but, you're able to capitalize on that because there's some element of deception, whether it's the draw or the counter trey. And now, because I think the first thing coach can worry about is I don't want to get the guy hurt. Right. And it's not like, and not that, you can, again, we're kind of talking about the SEC, like there's guys running quarterback power like that. You can do that. You just got to be living in a bit of a different reality. Or, you're just kind of selling out like you're playing option football. But if you can use these kind of quarterback run concepts as, a counter to what you do, whether again, it's counter trey or, you're a heavy zone team. So the counter trey is a good look, or you're running the jet sweep. So, the Dolphins a good look, or you're an empty team and the quarterback draws a good look. Again, like it just puts so much stress on the defense to kind of have to play, +1, right? Everyone's got to do their job, and then someone's got to do a little bit more than that to actually get that guy on the ground. So was there anything, when you're telling your quarterback to run the ball, and I know sometimes when you're telling good athletes to run the ball in summer ball or in high school, getting them to, be smart with their bodies, maybe not the easiest thing to do. The Superman syndrome in high school is pretty prevalent. But, was there anything that you kind of did with them, encouraging them to say, hey, once you get the first down, you're going to slide, or you're looking to get out of bounds, or are you just kind of cutting them loose?
Well, usually inside the box, it's really hard to kind of tell them what to do as far as like, I want you, to avoid hits. It's really about obviously protecting the football first and foremost, and really kind of not taking unnecessary hits. Like taking a hit and trying to, give punishment to a defensive player are two different things. Oftentimes you've seen like, with the London run, our guys trying to run people over, what I mean? And those kind of things, I think people, quarterbacks that get excited, especially if they are like, a little bigger and a little more physical, they love doing that kind of stuff. But, we try to, eliminate trying to put your head down or your shoulder down. Obviously if contact's going to be made, we don't want you standing up there taking more shots from people come flying into the pile and stuff like that. Kind of if contact's made, and you got yardage go down, hard to tell them in the moment of a game to kind of do those things. We do try to encourage on the sidelines. You see so many times they're 1 yard away from the sideline. They'll put their head down and try to truck someone. It's just like, okay, I get you. And it motivates the team and it's exciting, but majority of the time you're going to lead with your right shoulder, which you're right-handed. Yeah. And, more likely when you dislocate your shoulder, you're not going to be playing quarterback for us. And we really kind of try to say like, it's about, the end game and winning the championship. And early on this year, we kind of control that. When playoffs come, we kind of let them loose a little bit, especially in the championship game. You kind of say like, hey, let it all on the line now. And it's hard, like you mentioned, high school kids to kind of dial them back and things like that. So even in university, I had many conversations with Austin Kennedy in regards to how he runs and, what he does and taking shots, but really sometimes goes on deaf ear with those guys, and you kind of continue to coach it and you hope that, the injuries kind of are avoided.
Yeah. And I think that's where, like you did such a good job of communicating, hey, it's not about, we're not running this 12 times a game and we're setting this up off something else. And I think that if you kind of take that approach, and again, like defending you guys twice last year, you guys probably only ran, whether it was the counter or the Dolphin or the draw, 3-4 times a game, but you seem to get a first down every time you run it because you're kind of saving it for those moments, like you said, whether it's in the red zone or, a key second down in the middle of the field, you're trying to, prolong the drive, or you're looking for a spark, you've got a couple 3-and-outs, and, we're all going to have those plays kind of in our toolbox that we're looking for in big moments. And I think the quarterback run game, especially, and I think I had 3 kids last year, all 3 of them were good athletes, at the quarterback position. So I think it's something that if people aren't, trying to learn about and put into their game, I think they're missing out. But, thanks, Coach. Really appreciate it. You've been so open with your stuff, and it's such good stuff that I know a lot of our coaches can learn from. So really happy to have you back. Appreciate your time.
Oh, I love that being here, and I love the show, and a lot of great coaches are on here, and I'm just glad to be a part of it, man. Appreciate it.